What is the culture of a company? The culture of the company is its way of being, its life, its vibrancy, its health. And for too many companies, right now, especially because of the realities of coming out of the pandemic and just a total shift in the landscape of how we operate internally as companies, the best way to create vibrancy in your company culture is through the leadership, right? Everything flows down. And so if leaders aren't healthy, if leaders aren't thriving, if leaders aren't developing and create and intentionally creating movement in their company culture towards health and flourishing, then it's not going to happen by accident. And so what do we do? Well, this is what we do. We recognize first as leaders that the higher you ascend in leadership, the more weight you carry. Let me say it again. The higher you ascend in leadership, the more weight you carry. And that weight is the responsibility of the success of the organization. But in hard times, it's the responsibility of the survival of the organization. I don't think any leader likes to lay off people. No leader likes to make cuts. Leaders want uh, there to be health. Leaders desire, right? Big harvests, fruits of harvest. Like we want good times, not lean times. And but the reality is we have to do what is in the best interest of the company, not in the best interest of the individual all the time. That doesn't mean we can't care for the individual. And I think having a healthy company culture helps the individual feel cared for, feels a part of this thing that's trying to do good in the world. So the higher you ascend in leadership, the more weight you carry. And the higher you ascend in leadership, the thinner the air. Think about Mount Everest. Mount Everest, 29,000 feet high. The oxygen at the top of Mount Everest is one third the quality, one third the oxygen levels that there is at sea level. One third. Can you imagine? Like if you've ever been to Colorado, the Rocky Mountains, they always tell you when you go up there. I've been there for a few conferences, and they're always saying, "Hey, you got to drink your water. You got to be careful because you'll get altitude sick." The sickness. And think about that. Like you're not even close to 29,000 feet above sea level. And so obviously like that, what happens the higher you ascend, the less oxygen you have. And what happens? Oxygen is vital for thinking. Your brain goes into right mode. And so what happens? Well, the weight is heavy in leadership. The higher you go, the air is thinner. It becomes harder to see not only in front of you sometimes, just the way forward with all that stress, all that weight, it becomes very hard to see your blind spots. When the burden of leadership leaves you exhausted, when you go through hard times, it's just basically one foot in front of the other. And there's a reality, there's just a reality to that existence. But as you try to lean into survival, as you try to lean into success, what happens is we often repeat subconsciously what we know. We're not intentionally trying to be non-creative and get in ruts and patterns, but sometimes those ruts and patterns keep us from actually creating the health that we so desire. So what do we need to do? Well, that's the topic of today. 3 critical blind spots, how to see them, and what to do to turn those blind spots from weaknesses into strengths. As someone who has developed a number of leaders over the course of my 25 years of professional life, I have not I usually do not agree with the sentiment of, hey, turn your weaknesses into strengths. I think that's actually a waste of time. You should lean into your strengths and make sure your weaknesses are not hurting your strengths, right? That you should shore up your weaknesses in ways to make sure they are not liabilities or pain points for your leadership, but you should actually spend more time developing your strengths and turning them into superpowers. That is not the case when it comes to this, because these are not personal weaknesses that we're trying to turn into strengths. These are things that are weaknesses because you are not aware of them, or your awareness is not coming with actions to actually develop these things. And that's what we want to talk about. We want to give you the 3 areas of awareness and then how to act on them to make sure they are moving forward to be developed, to be turned into not only strengths, but superpowers. And here's the thing with company culture. I think we all want healthy company culture, but that does not happen by accident. And it doesn't happen. You don't get a healthy culture and then it just stays healthy. You have to tend it. You have to till it. You have to continue to do the work to make it healthy. Like my I grew up on a ranch. My dad had a huge garden. Well, at least it was huge to me. When I see people's gardens, there's some tomatoes and corn. This thing was like, I'm trying to remember the size. It is like probably two basketball courts. I mean, it's a huge garden. Uh, the corn, just rows and rows of corn and every kind of vegetable you can think of. And we would, when that thing was in full bloom, full harvest, it was just a spectacle to look at. But to get it there, you had to weed it, you had to water it, you had to do all this work. And then every year we would plow it under. I remember walking behind the plow with a tractor, and my job was to pick up the big earthworms. These huge earthworms that we then take down to our family pond and go fishing for trout with. So it was work. It was always work. It was never just, oh, this year we're just going to take the year off and just hope that by happenstance, the garden will bloom. That's just not reality. You got to do the work, always doing the work, always taking what is healthy and continuing to make it flourish, continue to do the work to foster it and to help it continue to move forward. So, what are the three blind spots, and what can we do to acknowledge them, become aware of them, and then turn them into strengths and superpowers? I'm just going to give them to you right from the beginning. We'll break them down and jump into them. The three areas of awareness that we have to be aware is this: you have to be self-aware, you need to be people aware, and you need to be language aware. Let me say them again. You need to be self-aware, people aware, and language aware. Let's dive in. Self-aware. The self, I believe, is made up of three components. You have a physical component, a mental component, and an emotional component. You need to be self-aware as a leader of all three of these things so that you can lead effectively with impact. So physically, think about this. I need to be self-aware of my physical reality and the effect of just my physical presence has on a room. Is my, what is my demeanor? What is just the look? Because again, we all have subjective, we're all filtering life through these eyeballs, these lenses, and that will impact the way people respond to us. So for me, I have to be careful. Now, what was it? I don't know. Time keeps happening. What was it? 7 years now? No, 2018. So what was that? 6 years ago? 6 years ago, I was a very different physical person. I was 100 pounds heavier, almost 300 pounds, really out of shape, really tired and exhausted. And so I had a different presence to me, probably a different energy. I thought I was energetic, but I definitely, carrying that weight, carrying the stress that I was in that moment of life, I know that now I have a very different physical presence, right? I'm 100 pounds lighter, but I'm also built different. I have at least if we were in person, I can have a little bit of an intimidation. Right? Again, bald, the pale looking rock, right? And so how I got to be careful then when I want to show care and compassion. I got to really be careful of the way I come across because it can be intimidating. People may all of a sudden, and if I'm the leader of an organization, if I come in, it can be tense, it can be stressful. Oh, what is this? What does the leader want? Oh no, what have I done wrong? Right? And we got to remember that our physical presence has both good qualities and some qualities that might hurt us if we're not aware. So, what is your physical presence saying? What's the way you dress communicating? What's the way you the physical response of the tone of your voice? And there's all these things to be aware of. Again, you're going to have a hard time being aware. If you're going to have to get feedback to become self-aware, you're going to need external feedback for this. Mentally, your personality, the way you process information, the way you think. I like to think out loud. I like to just throw things up on the wall and kind of spin them around. A lot of people, they find that intimidating. They find that, in fact, This is one of the things we work on. In fact, we'll get into it when we come to the next one. People aware is I got to be aware of how I process, of how I think, of how I'm communicating. Because for me, I might be processing something, just kind of chewing on it, but the way, because my communication style is so, it can be so intense, so like this, well, this is I'll articulate the viewpoint I'm thinking, and people think, oh, he believes this. This is the way we're going. And again, I'm just chewing on it. I'm just taking a stance for that moment to try to get my head around it. But the way I'm talking, the way I'm communicating, it sounds like I've already come to conclusions to at least an audience member. And I've heard this. This has been feedback for me that I've got, okay, I got to be really careful the way I think out loud to make sure I set both the context of what we're doing in this meeting or this moment and what I do believe or what I don't believe. So again, I've got to be careful of my personality. Some people, they're internal processors. They really, right? It almost looks like they're shut down, but they're not shut down. I did a workshop a few months ago with a group of just intellectual, very brilliant people. The leadership team of this company is just these are just great people with just brilliant minds. And as I'm doing the workshop, again, I'm a high I, high D. If you're familiar with the disc profile, right? I'm high energy. I want to just, man, let's go. Let's get some feedback. Let's get some response. And as a speaker, the group was kind of felt a little dead. It kind of felt a little like I'm like, man, am I that boring? Am I that? And the feedback, these are just very internal processors. And so they were really chewing on the content. The feedback I got, man, it was that workshop was brilliant. There were some great things there, so many good takeaways. But in the moment, I was like, is anyone paying attention? Have I put this crowd to sleep? But from their side, they were, man, their brains were on, they were firing. So again, we're wired differently, we react differently. And so I need to know, it has to start with me. I have to figure out what is my physical presence, what is my mental, how's the way my mind work, and emotionally am I got to be mindful of my emotions. My emotions can, yes, they can inspire and motivate, but they can also be so over the top. I got to be in control of my emotions. I got to know when to push, when to pull back. And you may be on the other side of that. You may not be a very emotional. You might be very close, right, guarded, and so people don't know how you feel, both for good or bad, about things or about about people. You may really care for your team, but that might not come across as emotional because you're not as public display of that affection and that care. And so you got to know, what does that look like? Are you aware of yourself? Self-aware. Here's a real key takeaway when you think about self-awareness. Self-awareness is both how you feel about yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, because you should feel confident. You should feel, when you think about yourself physically, no matter what you determine, right? Some people, like I have found great joy is a hobby, an interest outside of work to really hone this body. I love, it's like a piece of art for me. Like I want to invest because I get so much out of it, not only in right kind of this bodybuilding lifestyle, but also in just my health and my energy. I see so many ways it connects the dots to other things I want to enjoy in life. So to me, it's super important. To others, like I never push my my kind of what I think about diet and body, physical activity on others because you may not care. I want you to be healthy. I want you to make good decisions that impact the other areas and aspects of your life, but that's for you, right? So self-awareness with how you feel. You got to determine what kind of life you want physically, mentally, and emotionally. You got to determine, am I happy with where I'm at physically, mentally, and emotionally? Do I know who I am? Do I know my strengths in those areas? And do I know my weaknesses? Because again, no one's perfect. So we should always be growing physically, mentally, emotionally. Now, self aware, again, is both how you feel about yourself, but here's the real kicker, it's also how others feel about you. How do you come across to others with those three areas of your reality: physical, mental, emotional? How are they experiencing you and who you are. One of the best things I did in the last company organization I led is my second in command. When we went in meetings with our executive leadership team, his job in that meeting was not to necessarily, I mean, he did, but his primary job was not to be a member of that meeting as someone who was gleaning information. And that's why he is second, it was, it was second in charge. We were talking, he knew exactly what we were going to talk about in the meetings, how we wanted those meetings to go, what was the aim. He already knew all those things. So his primary job in the meetings wasn't to absorb information for the first time. We did that prior because his primary job in that meeting was to watch and help me be able to grow, to be able to know how I was impacting others physically, mentally, and emotionally. How am I coming across? How is my physical demeanor? How is the way I'm mentally processing and mentally engaging others and their feedback and their insights? How are my emotions? When do I seem in control? And man, that was a powerful moment. You're using the emotional vitality of the room to get us to where we need to go. Or how were your emotions maybe out of control because you were responding to things that, right? I need to know. That's one of the best things you can do is have someone on your team that can help you in your self-awareness. Because again, books and personality tests and these things are good tools, but they only take you so far. What you need is really someone with a pulse to give you real-time feedback on your physical, mental, emotional disposition and how you are impacting the people that you lead. Okay, self-awareness, a very vital, the most important thing of awareness. You have to be self-aware and growing using that information. As you become aware of it, what are the action steps you're doing to develop yourself to become a better person, a better leader? Second, that is people aware. People aware is we create a culture, especially in the leadership team, where we foster self awareness, where we say we want to invest in your self awareness. So, this is why every quarter we do a different personality test, right? We use the DISC, we use the Enneagram, we use Strength Finders. We're just always doing something every quarter, at least every 6 months, to help us get a different view of who we are. This is why I love all the personality tests. I don't believe in any of them as the one. And I don't believe that any of them, at least that I've seen, that I've used are entirely worthless, and you should not use them. I think they all kind of have an interesting lens to look at people with. The problem is when we become I think when we put too much weight into one personality test and say, the Enneagram is it, it's perfect, it totally gets me. Well, no, it might get you pretty well, but you know what? For as many people as it gets really well, it doesn't get people really well. In fact, that's the danger of a personality test is you can kind of believe it's like so in tune with you that you begin to form your personality around it because, oh well, this is telling me who I am. That's dangerous. You need to be you, and people are different. People are wired with all kinds of differences through their DNA and through their life experience. So back to the point, people aware means let's take the time to do self-awareness. But as we do self-awareness, let's do that as a team. Let's make sure that I'm understanding who you are and how you are wired, how you function physically, mentally, emotionally, so that we can actually be an all-star team instead of just a team of individuals trying to make our thing happen and coming up and fighting against the realities of our differences. Let me give an example. This is a very common reality I see in executive teams. Oftentimes, the CEO will be a high D on the disc, right? Disc, let me give you, if you're not familiar with the disc profile, D is kind of that dominant, that leader, let's get stuff done D. I is high extrovert, like artists, like they're the inspiration, the eye, the intensity. They just right. They're the life of the party. They're the energy. S, very servant minded, very administrative, very behind the scenes, wants to do all that, those tasks and that work to make things move forward, but doesn't really want public credit, really tends to be a support, right? S, support, serve. C is the logical, the controller. These are the CFOs, the COOs. They love. I call them the Excel charts, right? Everything needs to go through the grid and come out clean and tidy and put together. These are the people who love structure. These are the people who do not like to wing it. They love the itineraries. They love things to have neat and tidiness and form. Again, control. They want to make sure things are in control, not out of control. So DISC, people usually have right two components. And so I find most CEOs are high I, high D, right? Most leaders have D in them. They want to get stuff done. They're not there just to sit around and wait to be told what to do. They want to get stuff done. So especially in a big organization, a successful company, you're going to have a lot of high D people on your leadership team. But here's where the difference is. A CEO oftentimes has that high I, that high energy, that inspiration. That's what makes them the top dog leader. They bring the movement, the wind to the sails of the vision and the mission. The rest of the leadership team oftentimes is high D, high C. They want control. They want to think about things. They want to actually say, okay, this is where we're going. Let's reverse engineer it and actually build an effective strategy that works to get there. Man, you need both those people on that leadership team. But here's the problem. The CEO calls for a executive team meeting, and you go in, and the high I, high D is talking all over. But here's the vision. Here's this is what I'm thinking. Here's maybe we're going to do this and do this, and the leader's just kind of thinking out loud. They haven't really formulated the strategy yet. They're just painting pictures. They're trying to craft inspiration to get the rest of the leadership team to go, yeah, let's do it, let's go. But here's the issue. Those C's, high DCs on the team are trying to figure out, is this the way we're going? Is this what we're, and the high I wants feedback. They want to go, well, tell me how are we going to do this? And the high C goes, dude, I need to think about this. And so they kind of look like they shut down, and they're trying to process all of the colors that have just been splattered, Pollock style all over the walls. And it looks like they're shutting down. So now the CEO is frustrated because they feel like there's no energy in the room, there's no ideas, there's no off the cuff feedback. And it's because personality wise, these people now need to go back to their office, kind of decompress, put these things into their Excel chart to figure out, well, what are the realities here? What does this even look like? They need time. And so what you have are two then frustrated people. You have the IDs frustrated because they're not getting all that energy and all that creativity and all that brain spark storm right there in that moment. And you have the C's frustrated because they just felt like they got, a typhoon of chaos inside this meeting. They have no idea what action steps to take. And now they feel pressured to come up with solutions right away instead of being able to really chew on the data. And so do you see how our personality types, if I don't understand that, now if I'm the CEO and I understand that, that means I'm going to come to meetings with a different preparation. I'm going to come with a different strategy then to, yes, I still need to be able to say, hey, let's brainstorm for a little bit. I'm not asking us to come to conclusions. I'm just asking, man, give some of your feedback. Help me chew on this and give me some insights. And then what we'll do is we'll craft, and then I'm going to give you space to go and then really deep dive and come back with some solutions. See, all of a sudden now I've acknowledged the different personality types, and I've helped myself prepare so I don't get frustrated by maybe the lack of all the energy I want people to experience, but I'm helping them, I'm helping me, and I'm creating now I'm people aware. I'm trying to understand the people around me so we can actually work the best together to produce the best results. What we want to do in people awareness is I want to think, how do people think? How do people feel? How do people act? How? and why? What motivates them? What propels them? What are the emotional, mental, physical realities that are leading them to this? So why do I want this? I want to be able to lead them. I want to be able to lead people well, but I also want to get people in the right seats. Man, understanding personality types, becoming more self-aware yourself, and then not just being self-aware for yourself, but understanding. This is why I say the best thing a leader can do when we take these personality tests and when we read these books is spend equal time with the one that paints the picture of you as you do with the others. See, that's kind of the problem is when we do these personality tests, we jump in and go, oh, I'm an Enneagram 3, wing 2, blah, 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 blah. And we jump in and and then we just full bore want to know all the things about the 3, 2. And it's like, oh, the 6, who cares about 6s? They're weird. Well, the problem is you're leading 6s. And so I want to spend equal time going, well, who is this 6? What's going on in them? How does their mind work? What are they feeling? I love that because now when I meet a 6, I know I can speak language. I can serve them best. I can know people want to be known. And so now you can know them and now you can lead them. Not to see the problem with leaders is we oftentimes lead the way we want to be led, and that's not going to get you very far. If you take time to invest in understanding how others work, you can actually lead them. Because again, you don't want to be a Pied Piper to yourself. That's actually not going to build anything. If you want to build a great company, have different kinds of people around you because that's what you need. You don't need to replicate you. You're already there. Do what you do best. But build a team of people different than you. Get people in the right seats on the team because now you know what a team needs to actually be built. This is why I love the Colby test. I took the Colby test years ago in my organization, and it helped us see the way we were wired to see how we could actually accomplish the most. And what we realized is we had a huge gap. We had dreamers, we had instigators, we had people who did follow through and the systems and structures, but that final kind of piece, the really NCAT piece of making things finally come to fruition, we missed on our team. And so we had to hire someone. So we looked specifically. That was why it took us a while to hire someone in this. I just remember this one season where it just felt forever. It's because we were looking for someone very specific and we had some great candidates. They just weren't that. And we knew if we didn't get that, our team, we could have some great replicators who would bring some different things, being them who they were individually, but we desperately needed this for our organization to actually bear the fruit we knew it could bear because we were missing a part. So be self-aware, understanding both how you feel about yourself and how others feel about yourself, how your impact on them as an individual in your leadership. Become people aware so you understand the various ways people are wired so that you can actually have not just a team of leaders, but an all-star team that works together. It's like watching just if you ever watched an all-star team, even a team that's really talented, they have fun and they kind of do the thing. But when you watch like the what are they called? The Globetrotters, Boston Globetrotters. I can't remember. Whatever that basketball team is, they do all the funny, fun, crazy stuff. Like they work together, knowing this is our individual skills, and this is actually how we work together the best and become this all-star team that's able to do just crazy, crazy things. So become self-aware, become people-aware, and the final one is become language aware. Language is about how we communicate. There's 3 things that we communicate. We communicate the good. The good is who we are, our values, why we exist, our vision, what we are doing, our mission, what's the tactical objectives, and then how we're doing it, right? What's the strategy? What's the process? What's the structure? The good, if you're not, here's the thing. If you can't communicate the good, which should be exciting and motivating, inspiring, if you can't communicate the good, you're never going to be able to communicate the bad or the ugly. And this is where I find like we're just not communicating the good. Like how many organizations have vision statements that no one knows? How many organizations have values that I think are just a total waste of time? Like most of the values that we're honest and we're ethical. Duh. Why are we wasting space and time stating that? If you the best way you can say that these are our values, again, we all know that those are our values, or they should be our values. And if someone betrays them, you fire them immediately on the spot. That shows that you actually care about those values. But instead, we have these value statements, and then those are the people that usually get like, promoted. Like it's and that's why I just disdain any value statements that are just duh. Like if it's a duh, you don't need to write it. What you need to write is who you are specifically to your company. Like if our vision is this and our mission is this, our values should reflect the way we operate. That actually brings that vision into a reality that actually completes the mission. Like we need to be this, embody this to actually make that mission successful. That's a value. Now you're encouraging people to embody something that actually is rewarded because it brings the mission to fruition. There we go. Man, I sound like an evangelist today. Okay. I went to Bible school. You have to forgive me. Got a lot of baggage. Okay, so the good. How do we communicate the good over and over and over in clarity and in unique ways and angles so that our team is rowing? We're like, yes, this is it. Let's go. You need to be able to communicate the good, but you also need to communicate the bad. And this is what I tend to see, especially right now in our moment. We've got a recession going on. We've got things that are bringing stresses and worries to the people that work for our companies. And oftentimes, what I see is right, the marketing, the PR people come out and well, we don't know, and we try to create this BS, sugar coated, blah reality instead of just being honest. And here's why we want to be honest: especially internally, when you're honest internally, people feel like they're brought close, like they're brought in, right? If you speak in patronizing, sugar-coated ways, you make your employees feel like children. And well, you're the adults and you can handle it. And they're the idiot children and they just need to, you'll be all right. Like if that's the culture you want to create, but guess what? You're going to create children then. And children are terrorists, right? I've got four of them. If you treat them that way, they become terrorists and they just do what they're going to do in chaos. And I'm just telling you, I don't see it happening. And I've been around companies for 25 years, and I've seen this to the I can tell you some war stories to the nth degree of how sugarcoating and bending the truth. In fact, I was a part of a huge organization that I believe one of the key elements of its downfall was this: is that when we went through bad times, the PR team kept sugarcoating stuff instead of, especially with the executive leadership team, instead of just saying this is the way it is and this is what we need to do to get on top of this. You can't act if you don't know the truth. If you're sugarcoating it, right, it doesn't seem like we need action. It seems like, okay, well, I guess it will be fine. And that's not going to help your company. So you got to be able to figure out, how do we speak? And again, this comes back to self-awareness. It comes back to people awareness. How do we speak to make sure that we're being honest, but we're also being mindful. We're being intentional about the way we can actually give data, but use that data to spur action. So you got to be able to communicate the good. You got to communicate the bad. But here comes push come to shove. You got to be able to communicate the ugly. This is confrontation. How do you do confrontation? How do you do conflict? How do you give critique? What happens when you encounter frustration? What happens when you encounter an offense? All these kind of ugly things that we have got to become language aware. We have to learn the art of speaking. We have to learn the art of communicating so that we communicate with grace, with intention. But so we actually, because I think all communication, we want to care about ourselves. We want to care about the other, or we should. We want to care about, right, ourselves, the other, and the end goal, which is making the company succeed. That's why we should, right? That's why we work vocationally. We should work for someone we want to see succeed. If you are just looking for a paycheck, let me encourage you, get out of that company. You are a problem. And I want to encourage companies like, people. That doesn't mean you got to be loyal to the day you die. But while you work for a company, you should row with them. You should believe in their mission and vision, at least enough to be like, yeah, I'm a team player. Let's go. I'm not saying you can't look for, be mindful that there might be a better fit and better opportunities. But you shouldn't just be using companies to get to the next ladder and not care. I think that's unhealthy, and it produces unhealthy people. And here's the issue too: the company's got to be that way. The company's got to care about the employees. Now, that doesn't mean you can never fire anyone. Doesn't mean you can never lay people off. These are company decisions that have to be made, but you better be making them with transparency and honesty. And that's what I just don't see. I don't see a lot of today. And I think it's why people then do quiet quitting and treat their companies like garbage, is because, and that's the company's fault, because the company started it. The company did not use language to actually create a thriving culture. It used language to create a bad culture. So, language aware. How do we become language aware to communicate the good, the bad, and the ugly? So that as we speak, no matter if it's good news, it's bad news, it's hard news, it's all for the purpose of making sure that we as people become better people, and that we as an organization become a more healthy, thriving organization, internally and externally, to serve our customers better, to impact the world with greater effectiveness. Okay, there it is. Leadership awareness, eliminating the three critical blind spots stalling your growth. So become self aware, become people aware, become language aware. What are you doing today? Let me give you some action steps. What are you doing today to become more self aware? What kind of learning? Who are you seeking feedback from? Who on your team can you ask and say, hey, and not just in these, once a year, let's do a 360 evaluation. Man, just go into someone's office, especially after a meeting, and be like, man, give me a rundown. Tell me what you think, just your take. Just be blunt with me, because I want to learn here and grow. I'm just seeking information. Is what do you think about my physical presence? Tell me, what is my physical presence transmitting to you? Speak for you, right? Don't have them speak for others. Have them, you tell me what for you, mentally, the way I'm processing my personality. How does my mentality come across to you? Emotionally, what do you see? What do you get from me emotionally, right? Have someone give you some feedback, and continue to seek that and use that to hone yourself, because that's what's hard. It's hard. You don't want to get too far in the weeds so that you're becoming someone just for everyone's sake, but the way you feel that you come across may not always be the way you want to come across. So you need those insights. What are you doing to become more people aware? How are you growing as a leadership team together, not just as individuals going, yeah, this is who I am. Here's my name tag. I'm an Enneagram 3 and I'm a 7. No, like, do I actually know what a 7 is? Because I'm not a 7. I'm a 3. Whatever you are, right? How are you taking as much time to learn about others as you are about yourself? There is a key tool for a leader to become an all-star leader. Finally, how are you practicing healthy communication? This is where your values should be, right? Instead of let's be honest, how about let's speak truth even when it hurts? Let's speak the truth in love, because we actually care about people as individuals, and we care about this organization that we're giving our time, our talent, and our resources to, because we believe in its mission, we believe in its vision. Create healthy communication. Start with the good, because that should be easy. Have you communicated the vision? Have you communicated the mission? Can people repeat these things? Or are they just documents thrown into a safe you give people, at orientation, and then never touch again? If I had a dime for the companies that I've seen, that's the only time. Orientation, new hire, here it is, and then never touched again. And in fact, not only is it not touched again, what you reinforce meeting after meeting after meeting is usually the opposite. Not good. Okay, halting winter, this is what we do. What I've just articulated to you, these 3 steps, the self-aware, people-aware, language-aware, this is what our company culture program is all about. So if you go to haltingwinter.com, halting, Halting, let's halt something, let's stop it, right? haltingwinter.com/culture, haltingwinter.com/culture, you will read about this is what we do. This is our core company culture program that we do over a year, where we walk your team through self-awareness, people awareness, and language awareness. And so if that is of interest to you, and again, not just the program, but just You want to talk about that, you want some help understanding how to do this better, man, schedule a conversation with me. I love to talk to leaders, executives, HR people who usually are spearheading, in a tough position, trying to spearhead this movement. If that's you, man, let's talk. Here's my vision. My vision for Halting Winter is this: I exist to create healthy, flourishing companies of all sizes. I want to help all companies, all organizations become healthy and flourishing. And that means they need to be led by healthy leaders. My mission is to do whatever it takes to make that a reality. And so, what we do, what I do, and what the team does, we do workshops, we do keynotes, we do coaching. And those are the three things we do to make money. Everything else we give away, right? We do these free webinars. We have our Halting Winter podcast. I'll have conversations with as many people as my schedule allows because I believe information is free. Information should be free, right? We live in the information age. Information should be free. Application and implementation of that's the investment. And so I'll give you information for free. I want to inspire you with information. But if you want help with the application and the implementation, then let's talk about what tools and resources we can actually do to invest into your business. So if you have questions, man, I'd love to talk with you again. Seth Winterhalter, the president of Halting Winter. Let's go again to haltingwinter.com/culture, set up a time for a conversation, schedule that time, and let's chat. Looking forward to helping you experience health and thriving in both your leadership and your company culture.